Hello, Ms. Davis's agriculture students at Fort McCoy Middle. My name is Tavis Douglas. I'm the Associate Professor of Agribusiness at the College of Central Florida in Ocala. And today I'm taking you on a virtual field trip. We're up here at Wet Hammock Farm in Central Florida, and today we're going to discuss peaches. So we're out here in the middle of the peach orchard, and as you can see, we're getting ready for harvest. We have a lot of fruit out here that's almost ripe, that's getting ready to harvest. It looks like another week or two, and we'll be picking out here. So peaches in general. So peaches, the taxonomic name of peaches are Prunus persica. Peaches are in a classification of fruit known as stone fruit because of the pit in the center. So botanically they're related to fruits such as nectarines, plums, as well as cherries. They're all in the same family. Peaches, as we know them, originated in central China, somewhere between 6 or 8. Well, began cultivation sometime between 6 and 8,000 years ago. So we've actually been cultivating peaches for a very, very long time. Peaches, and then peaches spread around the world from the Middle East into Europe. Peaches didn't arrive in the Americas until the 16th century, when the Spanish actually brought them here. The English actually began cultivation of peaches in the 17th century in North America, as we know it now in the United States. Thomas Jefferson actually had peach trees in his yard at Monticello in Virginia. Full-time cultivation of peaches didn't begin though in the United States until the 19th century, until the 1800s. We began cultivating peaches from Maryland south all the way to Georgia. As we know it today, Georgia and South Carolina produce quite a bit of peaches. We're here in Florida, and a lot of these trees that you see have been bred to thrive and at least grow in our particular climate, and we'll discuss a little bit more about that. So the first thing that makes peach trees unique as far as other trees in general is the way that these trees are pruned. So out here in this orchard, these trees are pruned. They're kept around 6 to 8 feet tall. That way the fruit can be harvested from the ground. If these trees were allowed to grow on their own, they would get up somewhere between 15 to 18 feet tall, and a lot of the fruit we wouldn't be able to harvest unless we had a ladder. So we actually prune these trees in what's known as an open vase shape. So the best way to describe or to visualize this is we like to think of it as a bowl that sits on a stick. So the stick being the trunk that's closest to the ground, and it's this way so we can irrigate and cultivate and do other things underneath the tree. But essentially, this is the shape of it. So we prune the center of the tree out, so it's nice and open on the inside, as well as open around the outside of the tree. The main reason why we do, and then we flat top. We cut the top of the trees off so we can harvest the fruit. The main reason why we keep the central part of the tree open is for surface area. We have more surface area for sunlight to penetrate into the tree. The more sunlight we have, the more flowers we have on the inside as well as the outside. So it maximizes production on these trees. If we actually turn that bowl into a tree, you can see some of the branches that we have. So coming off of the main trunk here that's pruned at approximately 18 to 24 inches from the ground, we have what's known as scaffold limbs. So we maintain 3 to 5 scaffold limbs that come off of the base, and these are the main branches that will support the fruit load. And we like to keep them spaced out if we can, as far apart away from each other. And then off of these scaffold branches, we have short branches where the flowers and the fruit can develop. If the fruit load gets too heavy on a tree, these scaffold branches can break. So we try to minimize that. We try to prune these trees to minimize breakage due to the weight of the fruit itself. A few other terms about peaches. So peaches, the fruit itself, is a climacteric fruit, meaning that it's going to continue to ripen once it's harvested off of the tree. So in a lot of ways it's going to be very similar to either tomatoes, which are you might buy green in the store and then later ripen, or bananas, which do the same thing. You might buy them green and then they're going to ripen to yellow. Peaches will, in a lot of ways, kind of mimic and do the same things. Unlike some other fruit that we grow here in Florida, strawberries and citrus will not do that. They have to be harvested ripe. So peaches can be harvested before they're ripe, so they can be shipped, go to the grocery store, and be ripe or somewhat ripe when you buy them. So that's that term. Peaches are also a temperate crop. So the opposite of a temperate crop would be a tropical crop, more or less. So a temperate crop basically means that these trees need cold weather to produce fruit. So we don't get too much cold weather in Florida, but these particular trees, like I said, they were bred to withstand our particular climate. These trees will get just enough chill to produce flowers and to produce fruit. So what do I necessarily mean by that, enough chill? We have what's known as, and everywhere around the world, or what's known as chill hours. So in Florida, we get a certain amount of chill hours that will enable these peach trees to produce fruit. So a chill hour, by definition, is 45 degrees down to 32 degrees, 1 hour. How many hours of that we get? So in Florida, we're accumulating chill hours between October and March typically. So we have to match, and all peach trees are different. There's hundreds of varieties of peaches. They're not all the same. So we have to match the right tree with the right climate to harvest them at the right time. If you have a tree that requires a lot of chill hours and you plant it in Florida, it might grow fine, it might look pretty, but it might not ever produce blooms, or it might not ever produce fruit at all. So we have to be mindful of that. So where we're at in Citra here, we get on average somewhere between 300 to 400 chill hours in a season. If you're in Plant City, you're going to get slightly less than that because you're a little further south. You might get 2 to 300 chill hours, and if you're farther south, around Miami or Homestead area, you might get 0 to 100 chill hours. So we're having to match our trees to the particular climate, and there's a lot of crops that are like that. But because we're discussing peaches today, that's what we're looking at. So these particular trees are acclimated. These particular varieties that we have here are acclimated somewhere in that 200 to 400 chill hour range. There's not a whole lot of peaches like that because we don't have a huge commercial industry of peaches in Florida, but we are able to select the correct trees that will grow here. So a few other characteristics of peaches. So not only so the variety and chill hours are one thing, but we can also classify peaches as melting flesh and non-melting flesh peaches. So a lot of the peaches here at this particular farm are melting flesh peaches, meaning that they're extremely juicy, but they don't have a shelf life at all. They're very difficult to ship and get to a store in a timely manner before they begin to get soft. Alright, so most of these are not grown commercially. Non-melting flesh peaches are most of the peaches that you would buy in the grocery store in a standard commercial market. So they're going to be much firmer, and they're going to be a little bit longer lasting. So they're going to last a lot longer on your, in your house after you purchase them. So those are two characteristics. Peaches can also be classified by how well they cling to the pit in the middle. So they can either be freestone or clingstone. So freestone peaches, as you would imagine, the flesh detaches easily from the pit once you open it. Those are going to be most of the peaches that you're going to find. Those are the same peaches that are here, the same as the peaches that you would buy in the grocery store. They're going to separate freely from the pit in the middle. We also have a clingstone, which are peaches that, again, the flesh is going to bind to the pit of the peach. Most of those peaches go to processing. So all of your canned peaches, all of your processed peaches are going to fall into this category because they're just not as good as a fresh product in itself. Okay, so the most important thing, and the thing that people have the most problem with, when is a peach going to be ripe? Well, the first thing we need to look at is what's known as ground color. What is ground color on a peach? Well, we're all familiar with the red on the peaches. Well, the red is one color, but peaches are typically going to be two. They're going to be yellow on the other side. So the ground color actually refers to the yellow part of the peach, not the red. So the first clue to determine if a peach is ripe or not is to look at this yellow or the ground color. Now when a peach is unripe, This yellow is going to be more green. So this peach itself still has a little bit of green on it. I know it's kind of hard to see, but there's still some tinges of green in this yellow part of the peach. Once this turns completely yellow, you know that this peach is ripe to pick. Now, you can pick it with a little green on the back. You can put it, like I said, they will ripen off the tree, so you could pick it, you could store it, and a day or two, this peach would be ripe. So that's one way to tell if a peach is ripe. Number two is when the red color brightens. So, looking at the other color of the peach, the actual red color, when this gets to a nice, bright, extremely bright red, is another indicator that this peach is going to be ripe and ready to be picked off the tree. Another clue is going to be smell. They're going to smell like a peach. This one I know is not ripe, and it really doesn't smell much like a peach yet. There's really not much of a smell to it, but if it smells like a peach, it's a peach and it's going to be ready to eat. And then also by feel. So this is the hardest one. So this peach here is kind of firm, kind of hard like a rock. You want to be able to, peaches need to have a little give. When they're ready to eat, when they're completely ripe, they're going to give a little bit underneath your fingers. Now if they give a little bit and it doesn't come back and it leaves a little divot in the fruit, it's a little overripe, but that's okay. That means it's ready to eat immediately, right this second. So that's it on harvesting peaches. And so we'll take a look at we'll go into one of the trees and talk about some of the cultural stuff that we do. Alright, here we are underneath one of our peach trees here. These are one of our Florida peaches. And these trees are about 2 years old, just over 2 years old. So they're a very fast-growing tree, especially here in Florida, where it gets quite warm. So as you can see, we have these trees pruned up, about 2 feet tall, and this is where our scaffolds begin. So these trees were pruned at this point, and then we forced all of these larger branches to grow out in different directions to produce peaches, or to support the fruit load. These trees are irrigated. We irrigate these using not a drip irrigation, but a small emitter sprinkler irrigation system. So each tree has one of these, and that's connected to this black poly tubing on the ground here. We keep the base underneath these trees pretty relatively clean. That way we can fertilize and do all of our other cultural practices that we need to do underneath the trees, so we can keep these trees healthy. Most peach orchards are going to be the spacing on peach trees is going to be somewhere between 15 to 18 feet. Now I know you can't see it in the video, but these trees are actually spaced really close together. They're spaced at 6 feet apart, and we're doing this for high capacity, or what's known as high density production. So we're growing these trees relatively close together. We're forcing the branching outwards, and not in row like this. We're forcing it outwards. And these rows themselves are about 25 feet apart, so we can maintenance some of the area. We can mow and keep this area open for harvest and things like that. So Florida peaches in themselves, they are relatively, as you can see, they're relatively small, smaller than what you might buy in the grocery store. But what they lack in size, they make up for in flavor. These are some of the best peaches. Florida peaches are some of the best peaches that you will ever eat. So these trees produce quite a bit of fruit each year, and we're excited to be able to grow them here in Florida. And I think that's about it. Thank you for joining me on your virtual field trip to the peach orchard in Central Florida. I hope you enjoyed it, and go Cougars!